Continue with our discussion. So here we could have also done x is equal to movies data frame that content rating that value counts, and then we can simply say x dot plot. Good. Here we have the different content rating types and then number of movies. What we'll do next is replace this content ratings approved, not rated, G, and so on. So we'll replace those two unrated movies, and then we'll replace TVMA and X into NC17 rating type. Let's do that. So we have our movies data frame. We'll be looking at the content rating column, and we'll use the replace method to replace some ratings with a different rating, content rating. So we'll replace approved, not rated, GP, and passed. We'll replace those content rating types with the type unrated, and then we'll pass an in place attribute, and then we'll set that to be true. And let's do the same for the remaining content rating types. So movies data frame content rating that replace. In this case, we'll be replacing TVMA and X with the content rating type NC17, and then we'll place true for our in place attribute. Now let's plot our movies data frame content rating and see what it looks like. So content rating dot plot, and we'll pass bar. Let's run it. Oh, we have an error. I forgot to pass value count. So value counts that plot. Let's run it again. Okay. Now we have our content types R, PG-13. We have replaced all these remaining ones with unrated, and then we have PG, G, and NC17. We can find out any missing values by using the isNull method. So for instance, if I want to find out missing values in our data frame, I can say movies data frame that is null, and to find out the number of missing values, I can call the sum method and run it. So here I see that the content rating has 3 missing values, 3 no values. So what we will do is that we'll replace this missing values with a new value. In this case, we'll just pass unrated. So let's do that. We have our movies data frame, and we want to find out if there's any missing value in content ratings, right? So we pass from our movies data frame, use the content rating column, and then see if there is any null value, any missing value. That's what this will do. So here we have our missing values, our no values, the 3 no values. Next, what we will do is we'll fill those no values with unrated. So movies data frame that content rating that fill in name, then we'll fill it with unrated, and we'll set in place to be true. Good. Now if I check if there is any missing values, I get 0. That's because those values are filled with unrated. Earlier we saw that the average duration for the movies is 121 minutes. One thing we can do is separate and calculate the average star rating for movies based on that duration. So let's calculate this average star rating for movies over 121 minutes versus movies less than 121 minutes. So let's start by calculating the mean for movies over 121 minutes. So we have our movies data frame, and we'll be in our movies data frame, we'll be using the duration column, and we'll find out the mean values for movies which are greater than or equal to 121 minutes, and then we'll calculate the star ratings mean value. So we can call the mean method on our star rating, and let's run it. So that's the average star rating for movies longer than 121 minutes. So 7.95, almost 8 stars. Let's do the same for movies less than 121 minutes. So let's change this to less than and run it. And a little bit less star rating, 7.8 versus almost 8.0. Let's plot this on a graph and see this difference. So movies data frame that plot, and let's plot this on a scatter. So we'll use Pandas scatter, and we can for our x-axis we'll use duration, and then our y-axis will be star rating, and for some transparency we'll use alpha value of 0.4. Let's run it. And if we change the alpha values to, let's say, 0.8, you will see some, so duration over 120 minutes, and then we have star ratings on a scatter plot. So that's what it looks like on a scatter plot. So based on this scatter plot, we can't say much about ratings based on movie duration, right? I cannot say, oh, movies which are longer than 121 minutes have higher rating compared to movies with less than 121 minutes. You know, we cannot say that because the values are very close, and we can see that from the scatter plot also. And we have calculated the average earlier, the mean value, which is very close. As an assignment for you, try to visualize and see if there is any relationship between the content rating and duration of a movie. I will leave that to you. What we'll do next is try to determine the top rated movie, and then we'll also try to determine the top rated movie from each of our genre. Let's do that. So we have our movies data frame, and then we'll use the sort method to sort it by the star rating, and then let's call the title method so that we can get the title. And let's display the top 5. So here we have Wall Street, Bound, Home Alone, France, and this movie. Another thing we can do is we can also pass a parameter ascending and set that to be false. So if we run it again, now we have the top 5 rated movies: Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather Part 2, The Dark Knight, and Pulp Fiction. So those are the top 5 rated movies in terms of star rating: Shawshank, Godfather 2, Dark Knight, and Pulp Fiction. So this rating is out of all the 980 movies. Next we'll see star rating, the top rated movie in each of the genre. So I'll copy and paste it here, and we'll be sorting by star rating, and we'll set ascending to false. That's what we just did. Next we'll use the group by function to group the movies by genre. Okay, then let's see the top 3. I'm missing that title, that head. Let's run it again. Okay, we have so many movies. Let's just pass 1, so we only see the top rated movie in each of the genre. So instead of having a big list, we'll have a smaller list. These are the top rated movies in each of the genre. So we have the Shawshank Redemption, Dark Knight, 12 Angry Men, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and so on. So these are the top rated movies in each of the genres that we have in our movies dataset. And for that first we sorted them by the star ratings, and then we set ascending to be false so that we can see the highest star rated movies, and then we group them by genres. Earlier we calculated the average star rating for movies based on the average duration, whether it was above 121 minutes or less than that. This time let's calculate the average star rating for each of the genres. So let's go ahead and calculate the average star rating for each of the genres, and I'll be considering genres that have at least 20 movies in them. Okay, let's do that. And there are different ways to calculate that. I will just show you one of the ways. For that we'll be using, first we'll group our data set by genre, and then from that genre we'll be looking at the star ratings, and then we'll use the aggregate function to aggregate the star ratings by the mean value and the count. Our count in this case will be 20 movies, right? 20 movies or more. So we'll be considering genres that have at least 20 movies. Let's do that. So we have our movies data frame, and then we'll group our data frame by genre, and then we'll aggregate our star rating by using the aggregate method AGG. Then we'll pass count, so we'll aggregate our data frame by count and mean. Let's save this in a variable called average rating, and then we'll use this average rating, and then we'll set the count to be greater than or equal to 20. Let's do that. So we have our average rating, and from the average rating data set we'll be using count, right? So we'll pass a count of greater than or equal to 20 movies. Okay, let's run this. So here we have our genres, count, and mean. So action movies, they had a mean star rating of 7.88, adventure 7.9, animation 7.9, comedy, crime, drama, and horror. So we only consider genres with at least 20 movies in them. And here we have the counts, right? So all the genres with less than 20 movies are not included here. So if we change this to, let's say, 100, we'll only see less genre. And if we make this, let's say 5, we'll see some more genres, right? Like Western. I think this one is new, also biography. If we make this, let's say even 1, we even have some more genres like family, fantasy, history, and so on. That's how we can control by passing different count values. And we see that the different genres, they have about the same average star rating, right? I don't see any much difference based on genre. So this is just one way of accomplishing the task. You could come up with the same result using different methods. For instance, you can grab the genres, and then on those different genres you can use the method, you can pass the method value counts, and then that will give you the counts for the various genres, and then you can use that the genres count result, and then you can set that count as greater than or equal to 20, and then you can use the index method on that, and that will give you genres with over 20 movies. And then you can, once you have that, you can simply group by the genres and then calculate the mean star rating by using the mean method. So those are some other ways to come up with the same result here. Okay, so these are some of the questions that we saw on our IMDB movies dataset. We answered some of the questions. What is the average movie duration? We sorted the movies based on duration. We replaced some of the missing values with a different value, and then we saw the top rated movies in each of the genres, and then we tried to see if there was any relationship between the star rating and the genre. We also saw if there was any relationship between star rating and average duration of a movie. So those are some of the questions that we saw. So try to go through this project and see if you can answer these questions, and you can also create your own questions